Hello fellow homesteaders, I'm Tara from New Life on a Homestead, and today we're going to be using a hodgepodge of common household ingredients to remove a stain naturally. It's a laundry pre-soak. You can do it in a squirt bottle or you can soak it in the sink, which is what we're going to do today. And we're going to be dealing with a grease stain and possibly a little bit of a ketchup stain on a nephew's favorite t-shirt that he just soiled while doing some work for us. So I'm going to try to get that stain out and show you how to do it and how to do it naturally without exposing your household and your loved ones to any toxic chemicals. Okay folks, I'm going to get the t-shirt out here. I promised my nephew I would try to get it out. His timing was perfect. I was looking for a relatively new stain. You can see here some of it's just wet from sweat, but we have some grease stain here and some ketchup stain here. And this is his favorite shirt. He wants to wear it to irritate his father this evening. So depending on your politics, you might say the shirt looks better stained, or for heaven's sakes, get the stain out and save that shirt. So, but we're not going to worry about politics. We're going to worry about this stain because we do not want to expose anybody having this on them. Of course, if you're on it, you're sweating, you're working outside, you're going to get even more potential exposure of the toxic chemicals. So we're going to try to get rid of it naturally. I've had great success with this variety of recipes. You can play around with it. I like to use peroxide instead of distilled white vinegar because it tends to break up tough stains like this grease stain is going to be a lot easier. Vinegar is great. You can substitute a lot of your favorites if you're used to making your own natural cleaning products. You might have some certain favorites. You can substitute the hydrogen peroxide for rubbing alcohol or vodka. But this is really great to break up grease. The only thing you cannot do is mix together the hydrogen peroxide and distilled white vinegar. Those are two ingredients when you're playing around and use some of your favorites or coming up with your own alternatives, because they can create a very toxic gas. The fumes could be ER trip, could be deadly, could just make you a little sick, allergic reaction. Anyway, it's not good. So even though they are natural, they are things you cannot combine. I prefer doing the soak to doing the squirt bottle on a stain this large, and it tends to give it more time to soak in it and have less chance of spreading. If it's a smaller stain or a different type, I would just kind of go ahead and squirt it and do a little dabbing like this. But because I'm using a lot of dry ingredients, they would clog up a squirt bottle. This is my natural spray for getting stains out of carpets, and you can see just a typical nozzle, a Dollar Tree type spray. A lot of the same ingredients in this, at least base ingredients. But because of the hard ingredients, the chunky powdery ones, it would clog that nozzle. You need to get one that's maybe from a garden center with a little bit bigger nozzle. So what I'm going to do, I already have my cold water and a little bit of my homemade natural laundry detergent in here. You can use laundry detergent, you can use dish soap, and you can omit that if you want to. I'll turn you here a little bit. But now I'm going to go ahead and mix in my ingredients. And the measurements, as with most things when you're doing your home remedies or your home clean supplies, do not have to be exact. The cornstarch and the baking soda, you could just use one or the other instead of using both. And we have typical table salt there in the back, the standard table salt, and hydrogen peroxide, it's 3%. As I said, you can substitute that with vodka rubbing alcohol. So I'm going to put 3 nice heaping tablespoons. And yes, this is a regular serving spoon. It's about a tablespoon. You can measure out exactly if you want to. This is just my typical unit of measure when I'm doing the home remedies. And then I'm going to take the table salt, and I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons. You can also use sea salt, and that actually might have worked better on this grease stain. It's a little bit more abrasive, and because this is grease and I'm pretty sure ketchup, I'm going to go ahead and add a smidge more of the salt. And the ingredients tend to get chunked up a bit and glob up. In the sink, you can get them right down your strainer. So instead of waiting until the end to stir, if you have a squirt bottle, you can just shake. I don't want them to all gather up in one spot. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a stir with my hand and get them out of my strainer. And I'm going to go ahead and put in about, I don't know, a teaspoon and a half of the cornstarch, which is also great at removing stains. You can use borax. I have it here in the back. Borax and boric acid are absolutely not the same thing. The one thing you need to worry about with the borax is if you are doing this at stain that might be on a pet bed or a pet toy or blanket, or even your own blanket or pillow, something your pets will have access to. Borax can cause poison, mild to very serious or deadly allergic reactions in animals, especially dogs. And that's why I don't often put it in a carpet cleaner, because and you can check out our carpet cleaning and stain removal and odor air fresheners. I'm getting a whole bunch of globbed up cornstarch here. See, it just globs. So I'm going to go ahead and stir this around a bit. Yep, that's just not going to activate on the shirt that well if it all globs up down there in the strainer. But when you're using it as a carpet freshener or a carpet stain remover, even if you use shop vac or have an excellent sweeper, it'll get stuck in the piles and be a long time before you ever get it all up. So it's not good to use for that. But now this t-shirt, it will be washed, and even if my nephew decides to go hug on one of the dogs, it will already have all the borax out because there's nothing really there for it to cling to. Okay, so we have in our 1 to 1/2 tablespoons of the cornstarch, and we have in the liquid laundry or dish soap, and we need to do about 1/4 of a cup of the hydrogen peroxide. I know my cups are clangy, noisy, folks, but I love them. I hate using plastic in general. These are my grandmother's. They're probably getting close to 100 years old now. I use peroxide a lot for cleaning and disinfecting, so I had to bring out 2 jugs to make sure I had enough. There we go. Just about perfect. You can add a little bit more for a tough stain if you feel that's necessary, as long as you are not going to mix it with distilled white vinegar. I believe it has the same dangerous gas and fumes effect with apple cider vinegar, but I'm not positive. I've always read and researched and heard that it's distilled white vinegar. So to be on the safe side, you better do some research if you ever want to combine those 2 ingredients in your natural remedies. Now the only thing left is the cream of tartar. I'm going to go ahead and put in about a tablespoon of that. Now the recipes sometimes say a teaspoon or up to, or an amount. That's just a guideline. Feel free to deviate. It's like when you're cooking or baking, you can adjust a little bit, but it's not as precise as cooking or baking, where too many smidges more of something or less of something will not let your bread rise or your cake form. You can kind of gauge on what type of clothing you're working with, if it's thick, if it's white, what type of stain it is. And I've just lost my cream of tartar. There we go. So now you can see we have a very milky water with all of our ingredients in it. So I'm going to soak my nephew's shirt right down in here, press it down evenly, and because the stain is dried, I don't have worries about it running. Would it still be a stain that just happened and you whipped it off to try to get it while it's wet, then I definitely would suggest a squirt bottle, or if the only squirt bottles that you have are like that one with a small nozzle, you can put in the squirt bottle or a bowl and stir it around, and then maybe use a shot glass or a turkey baster or something just to precisely put it where you want to put it. If you can't actually spray it, but you want to make sure you're not spreading the stain. Now, this does not appear like it's floating. You're supposed to use about a quart of water. This may be a smidge more than a quart. I just usually fill it a little less than the sink, a little less than 1/4 of the way full when I do this. And I'm going to let it soak for a good while, and then I will pull it up. If you've ever put stain remover on anything, you'll do it the same way. Now, don't be excited that miraculously the stain is gone because it's so wet you really can't tell. I can feel it on here, but just kind of gently rub it. You don't want to spread it. Some stains, when they get wet, even if they were already kind of ingrained in it, you get it wet enough, you can still spread the stain. Just going to gently rub back and forth a bit. But I'm going to go ahead and let it soak for a good while. And after it's soaked and I get it out and I let it dry to see how the stain's looking, or dry enough to see how the stain's looking, I can decide if it needs another treatment. And maybe even a spot one where I leave it damp, and I've done that before. So I'll get it out and it's drying, I can see the stain still there, so I'll lay it out while it's still damp and go ahead and mix up just the dry ingredients and sprinkle them on it and let it sit. Sometimes I just use the salt and the cornstarch and sprinkle it right over top of it. But we'll see how this does, and then wash it up and do the real test of drying. If you're at all not certain If the stain is gone, for heaven's sakes, do not put it in a dryer because that will set the stain. And once we're all done and it's all dried, no matter what it looks like, I'll be taking a picture to add to this article so you can see the final product and how well it worked. If you have any variations on this recipe, you try it and it doesn't work, you try it and you've altered it a little bit more than just a pinch here, a pinch there, and it worked really well for you, please feel free to leave us something in the comments section. Try to guide you through if you have a problem. Love to hear how you've improved on it or why it didn't seem to work, on what kind of stain or what kind of material. And we can all share our knowledge with everybody else here on the New Life on the Homestead community. And I hope I could save my nephew's shirt for him. And we'll find out probably in an hour or so. I'll be able to tell. I'll go ahead and I'll get it out and I'll let it dry a bit, check the stain, and repeat or spot treat if necessary. And then wash it up. And I'm just going to let it air dry. I prefer to always let something just air dry instead of putting it in the dryer, even if I'm 100% or close to 100% sure that it's taking the stain out. I'd rather just err on the side of caution and not put it in the dryer. So I'll let you know how the grease, and I'm thinking a little bit of ketchup stained, turned out here at the end of the article.